having
Mandala Panza Mega Samanda
Yeah, so tonight, can you hear? I think the topic is the introduction to Vajrayana. So, and then the Vajrayana is the Buddhism. So in Buddhism, there is the mind training in relation with the absolute reality, and in the relative reality, how we try to train our mind to perceive the just the true nature, or to really understand the what is our primordial nature is, and that whole complete explanation itself is supposed to be the introduction to the Vajrayana.
今天晚上开日无节所要讲的是有关金刚乘的入门简介。金刚乘是佛教当中的一支，讲的主要是解释有关从绝对的实相当中呢去训练我们的心性，而这个训练呢要从相对的这个实相当中呢去了解看到我们的本心自性。
In generally that the whole complete Buddhist teaching itself is that how we could do or relate with the just our spiritual life in our day-to-day lifetime, in relation with the cause and effect of just actions, what we do, and based on that what sorts of intentions and motivations we need to cultivate in everyday life, and then based on that, then what sorts of sense of view, how we view this world or this samsara or this our life, according to that it's the absolute truth or absolute reality. That way, where there is a just like a complete explanation, and in a way just the instructions how to engage into through our body, speech, mind, that to actualize that primordial pure nature.
所有佛教的教法当中呢，都是在引导我们在这个日常禅修当中呢，去了解因果以及动机，并且去累积资粮，并且呢，依据这样子的 鉴定呢，我们去看待这个世俗间的生活，而进而去了解这个绝对的实相。而这个佛教的这个佛法当中呢，给予我们详细的指导，如何呢以身口意呢去了悟这个清净的本性。
So based on those teaching that within the Buddhism, there is no difference. Only that difference between the just Hinayana or the Sutrayana as Mayana or the Vajrayana is just the speed of the path through which one could attain that kind of enlightenment or the liberation. So that is why in the text it is explained that Penchik Naya Mamuntang Umbunumbe Ongjabe Tamungta Meva Tang Umbunumbe Ongjabe Nagi Pepa Kevarpa. So which means Penchik Naya means like based on the Sutrayana practices and the Vajrayana practice as its ultimate result as enlightenment or the Buddhahood, to be completely liberated from the suffering of samsara, that there is no difference.
依据这些法教呢，佛教当中的这些教派呢，并没有任何的差别。但是呢，在大小乘以及金刚乘呢，唯一的不同点呢，在于他们证悟的速度。在序中说到呢，显教以及金刚乘呢，它在最终呢达到佛果解脱轮回的这个结果上呢来讲呢，并没有任何的不同。
Then based on the absolute truth and the ultimate realization as the Buddhahood or enlightenment, even though there is no difference, but then the difference within those Sutrayana and Vajrayana is like where it explains Ombudambo, which means sharp faculty. So the Vajrayana, those who follow, in generally those who follow, they are supposed to be very sharp level of mind, the higher level of mind, or much more greater intellectual, that where one could understand the Vajrayana view and Vajrayana meditation and the discipline and so forth. So that way where that the practices are also much faster in a sense to attain enlightenment and then the liberation.
虽然从绝对的实相角度上来看呢，这些宗派呢并没有任何的不同，但是金刚乘以及显教呢唯一的不同点呢在于，修持金刚乘的行者呢通常都是属于上根器的，智慧呢比较容易呢了解到有关金刚乘的见地呢修行，以及他的行为，并且呢能够在这样的修持当中呢快速的得到解脱证悟。
So that based on that faculty or that just a level of mind where it is explained like just kind of sharp level of mind, middle level of mind, and maybe just kind of lower level of mind. So what that makes kind of just differences that based on those kind of sharp level or low level of mind is in relation with the just practice as it is been just taught in Sutrayana and the Vajrayana in the sense of relative truth and absolute truth, how you just kind of perceive or how you just understand or how you experience and how you view. So based on that, in the Sutrayana, so one may think what are the kind of actual differences. So in the Sutrayana, that based on the kind of the relative truth, like that which is explained in the Prajnaparamita Sutra, and the commentaries written by great Indian scholars like Nagarjuna and Chandrakirti and so forth. That the whole complete essence of that teaching, that the relative truth is being just based on what is called interdependent origination, interdependently arisen, and at the same time that which appears and which perceives is as illusion, so nothing as just real.
依据根器呢以及心性程度的不同，分为上中下三种根器。这个显教呢以及金刚乘它的不同点呢，在于修持的方法，如何去了解绝对以及相对的实相，并且呢如何看待我们世间的这个万法的现象。而显教呢，它的重点呢在于从这个相对的实相当中呢去了解这个万法。在般若心经当中以及龙树菩萨等呢提到呢这个重点呢在于显教呢是讲这个因缘和合，并且呢是世间的现象呢一切都是虚幻的，没有这个本质这个实质的实相存在。
Then now in the Vajrayana, whether it is outer tantra or inner tantra, then the whole complete relative existence of phenomena is not even just perceived as illusion. It is just explained more of its pure aspect and pure appearance based on that pure perception. How where you just try to perceive and try to understand and try to realize that just this as a Buddha feel, and then all the beings as somehow like a male and female bodhisattvas, or male and female like Vidyadharas, or like Dakas and Dakinis, or even as like male and female deities, that that kind of just appearance. So that which is relating with the absolute reality.
从金刚乘的角度来说呢，不管是外序以及内序呢，从绝对的实相上来解释。在金刚乘当中呢，并不是这个外界的现象呢为虚幻的，反而进一步呢以清净的见地呢去视所有的现象呢都是清净的显现，包括呢佛的这个净土众生呢，以及佛父父母的男女菩萨、持明尊的永父以及空行呢，这些呢都以清净的见地呢去视所有的万法呢为清净。
Then from the absolute truth or absolute truth, that is based on the Sutrayana and then the Vajrayana, in generally that which explains about what is called emptiness, that within this all phenomena which doesn't have inherent existence or inherent true nature, so somehow it just appears as real, but it doesn't have true existence and true reality, that which as if you look into it, then just there is no real essence, that it is just like a just on the whole sorts of just causes and conditions and parts and particle portions are just being compiled or assembled and together, and that which just appears as like any sorts of these phenomena like cup or table or house, cars and computers, and then animals and human beings, these bodies. That way how it just like appears, but when you analyze and when you examine and try to get into its just true identification, then one cannot really find anything just true existence or inherent existence. So that what it is, just the emptiness. as the absolute truth, and in that emptiness nature, that whether it is Hinayana or the just Mahayana or Vajrayana, like outer and inner tantras, somehow the emptiness meaning, there is no difference, but there is the difference of the the proportion of the emptiness. While in the Sutrayana, the emptiness is kind of explained, but still it is not complete. And in Vajrayana, what emptiness is explained, it is just complete and perfected.
从绝对的这个实相的角度呢，来解释空性呢这个部分呢，在显教以及金刚乘呢都提到相同的解释，也就是呢所有的现象呢，它都并不是具有实质的存在。虽然呢它向我们显现这个有，但是呢它在本质上呢并不是实际存在的。如果我们进一步分析呢，我们会发现呢所有的现象都是合而成的。这个包括呢车子、电脑、人、动物等等的这些身体呢，都是同样的道理。虽然呢这些现象呢向我们显示它的一个实有的存在，但是呢进一步分析以及解释呢，我们会发现呢所有的万法呢，它本质上呢都是不存在的。不论是大乘、小乘以及金刚乘的外序以及内序呢，对于这点上呢来讲呢，它们都是相同的。唯一呢，金刚乘呢在解释空性的角度上呢，要比大乘呢来得更完全以及圆满。
Then the other aspect, based on the path, according to the Vajrayana, where it is saying Tapmang, means in Vajrayana there are so many different methods or solutions how you engage into practice, that one could have that kind of realization or enlightenment in a faster way. And at the same time, it also explains Kawamepa, means in Vajrayana you don't have to go through any sort of hardship practice. It is just the whole practice is just in a way kind of easy and in one way kind of simple, and also that doesn't have to put so much kind of effort into it. And that way, just where somehow the based on the Vajrayana path, where one could do just have that realization or enlightenment, possibility of even having that enlightenment in one lifetime.
另外在这个修行的这个道路上呢，金刚乘呢有非常不同多的这个善巧方便的修持法门，能够呢快速的证悟。而另一方面来说呢，在修持金刚乘呢是非常简单的，不需要经过艰苦的修持，无需呢花费太多的力气。在金刚乘的序当中呢提到呢，在修持依据金刚乘来修持呢，有可能在这一生当中呢证悟成就。
So then in Vajrayana, in a way that based on that view or meditation and the behavior or discipline, and then the fruition. So as a fruition, the enlightenment to obtain Buddhahood, just it is kind of same. Then just the view, the view that Vajrayana itself, it is been explained as like a just a Jebu Lamdo Jeva, which means that the fruition being applied as a path. So the fruition being applied as a path, that what means, the fruition is the just enlightenment, like Buddha field just palatial palaces, everything is just, enlightened as like Buddha or a deity. So that fruition itself being applied into path, that which means from the very beginning, in Vajrayana, starting from like, just Ngondo, the four foundation practices, where you go through visualization of all these, just deities, and then, just true deities, and all the Buddha field, everything just as pure as, that is, primordial nature, and that is, just through that visualization, where even just oneself also kind of, generating in form of, just deity, which means you are kind of, applying the fruition, kind of enlightened aspect of oneself as a path, so that one can just, actualize according to one's own kind of, primordial nature.
在金刚圣呢依据呢这个见地禅修行为以及结果呢这个4个方面来说如果的这个方面来说呢，在金刚圣以及显教呢这个成佛的这个结果呢是相同的，但是呢在金刚圣提到这个见地的部分呢，金刚圣是以果这个结果呢为这个修道的这个道。也就是说呢，这个所有呢诸佛菩萨本尊他们本具的这个证悟的特性呢，我们运用在修道的这个道上。从我们开始修行这个四加行的时候呢，我们就开始观修本尊三根本以及净土呢，所有的一切呢都是原本清净的，而我们观自己呢也是自己呢为本尊。所以以这样子的清净的见地呢，去发展自己原具有的这个证悟的这个特质来修持。
So that way, the Vajrayana view is called Sanpe Tembayame, which means like the special non-duality of the relative truth and absolute truth. So that which kind of makes special means like special from even just whole complete teaching of the Sutrayana. In the sense, as I explained earlier, in the Sutrayana, the reality just to perceive or to understand or to realize as illusion, but in the Vajrayana, from the very beginning, just you try to perceive or experience or to realize as just the pure Buddha field, and then palatial palaces, and then all these beings to just perceive as like male and female, kind of like a deity, based on that Buddha nature, and that the special kind of quality is that even you perceive, even you try to experience, try to realize all these beings as a male and female deity, but at the same time it is just non-dual with that kind of just emptiness, which means that all those forms and colors and shapes and appearances that which doesn't have any kind of substantial, which doesn't have any kind of like inherent existence or true existence, or which doesn't have self-characterized nature, and that way where you engage into such kind of just practice, just based on that just Vajrayana view from the very beginning, how everything is pure as it is, as according to the suchness or according to that just primordial nature, how everything is enlightened in that way.
在显教的角度来说呢，讲到这个相对的现象呢，这个一切呢都是幻象而不实际存在的。但是呢，从金刚圣的见地来说呢， 所提到的这一切现象呢，从一开始呢以来呢，都是原本呢清净的，就如同呢这个清净的净土呢，以及佛的这些宫殿，而所有的众生呢，也都是佛母本尊。这样殊胜的功德力呢，让我们能够了解，在一开始呢，就是所有的众生呢为本尊，而在这样子的修持的同时当中呢，我们也能够了解到，所有的这些本尊呢与空性呢都是无二无别的。虽然呢我们观修呢有这个颜色以及形象，但是呢同时呢我们也能够了悟到呢，这些呢都并没有实际具身存在的，而依这种法呢去修持。
So then, just based on that view, what one just apply into practice as a path is just in the Vajrayana, which is known as that just a non-duality of generation stage and then the completion stage. So anyhow, just based on all these phenomena whatsoever is existing, somehow there is some sense of kind of non-duality nature, like as a just appearance, that however these phenomena just appear, that appearance is non-dual with that just emptiness, and emptiness non-dual with the just appearance. And based on this truth, it explains that the emptiness non-dual with the interdependence origination, and then the interdependence origination non-dual with that just emptiness. Then in the as a kind of engaging into practice, that is non-duality of method and wisdom. For example, like based on your intention, where it explains or you hear many times what is called bodhichitta. So bodhichitta is always non-duality of compassion and the wisdom. When one just kind of falls into just any of kind of just extreme, just fall into wisdom, where you have great deal of intellectual understanding, and even just fall into kind of emptiness, somewhere kind of like a nothingness, then one doesn't have the right motivation. Or even you just fall into extreme of compassion, you just feel so much compassion, but when you don't have the wisdom, then again you are just bodhicitta, or the motivation to attain enlightenment to benefit the being is still kind of not getting perfected. So where it needs the compassion and the wisdom, kind of like a balance, and not balance as a kind of two substance or two phenomena, but that the balance in the sense of kind of degree, that how much compassion you could give rise to it, that much wisdom you need. Otherwise, the compassion sometimes fall into like a just kind of like tiring yourself, and your compassion then sometimes fall into like idiot compassion, and then sometimes the compassion make you upset, and your compassion just kind of like a just make you emotional and depressed. And then one could not handle compassion, because the wisdom, the skillful means, that part is missing. So that is why compassion and wisdom has to be like kind of equal quantity and equally just maintained. Then what it is known as non-duality of compassion and wisdom, then one could have the right bodhicitta. Then that motivation just become very effective.
在金刚圣提到这个将见地呢运用在修行当中呢，讲到这个升起圆满次第呢无二的这个修持方式。 无论呢这个现象呢是如何的存在呢，它在本质上呢都具有这个无二的这个特性。譬如说这个万法的这个向我们显现的这个有呢，与这个本质上的空性呢是无二无别的。而从实相上说呢，这个空性呢与所有的缘起这个和呢也是无二无别的，而方便呢与智慧呢也是无二无别的。而这个菩提心呢，以及慈悲智慧呢，也是无二无别的。当我们在修持的当中呢，如果落入这其中的一边呢，以智慧举例来说，如果我们非常有智慧，能够了解到空性呢，但是我们没有这个慈悲这个正确的动机呢，这个就是一个极端。或者是呢，我们有很大的这个慈悲心，但是我们没有智慧呢，并没有办法善巧的去利益众生。而当我们落入这个慈悲的这个当中呢，会被这个慈悲呢所束缚住，甚至呢或有这个妇人之人沮丧以及情绪化的现象的产生。这个都是因为呢落入了极端。这个具有极端的这个慈悲呢，但是却没有这个智慧呢，去善巧方便。
Then, in relation with the whole complete appearances of this phenomena and all the beings, that how we engage into practice. According to the Vajrayana, is that a non-duality of generation stage and completion stage. So generation stage is the appearance, and then the completion stage is the just emptiness. So the generation stage that according to generation stage or the creation stage, whether it is in relation with this kind of practice like Wento or like Vajrayana or Guru Yoga, any other deity practices, when you go through those visualization, then there is always kind of two way of visualization. One is maybe just in front, deity visualization, or above your head, like Vajrasattva practice or Guru Yoga practice. And then the other aspect of just generation stage or visualization is where you are generating yourself as kind of deity. So that for example like Vajrayana practice, and then including like all of Sherab practice, and then the Vajrasattva at the end, just that dissolves into oneself, and then oneself becomes the Vajrasattva. So that which is called self-generation, the self appearing as the just deity. So that appearance of the deity which one kind of just visualize, and then just in the beginning it is also just where your mind imagining that the appearance of the deity in front of oneself, and that which is the just one's kind of pure nature, primordial nature, absolute reality. Even though it is the absolute reality, but one hasn't just kind of like transformed or emerged in form of that real deity. So that is why one has to go through that imagination or that visualization, where it is explained visualize in this way, and that the visualization itself being applying into practice just over and over and over and over. Then after some time, like once the ordinary samsaric kind of form, the ordinary appearance just slowly kind of just changes and transforms into the one's own primordial appearance as the just deity. and those are very true. In reality, one can just really happen through those practice. It is not just a kind of like a metaphor or just only a kind of explanation or just only a imagination. In reality, one can experience in that way.
在金刚乘当中所提到的这个身体以及圆满次第呢，这个身体次第呢指的就是这个现象的显现，而这个圆满次第呢指的就是空性的本身。在身体次第当中呢，无论是任何一个法的修持呢，自家行或者是普巴也好，它的观想法呢，普遍来说有两种。第一种呢是观想本尊呢在自己的前面或者是上方，如这个金刚萨埵以及莲师的修持。另外一个呢是观自身呢现起呢为本尊，如普巴金刚的以及观音菩萨的修持法，或者是呢在金刚萨埵仪轨呢最后呢结尾的时候呢要观自己为这个本尊。在刚开始的时候呢，我们观自己呢为本尊的这个显现时呢，我们是以这个造作的心呢去观想，这个自己呢本来具有的这个清净的这个本性。虽然呢在实相上来说呢，我们本身呢就是具有这个清净的这个特质，但是呢因为我们不了解，所以需要用这种造作的方法呢去观想。然后不断的运用这个修持法，一直到自己呢，这个外向的这个频繁的这个显现呢，转化为这个清净本尊的显现为止。
Then to get into the perfection of the generation stage or the visualization, whether it is in front or just oneself, that part, something that which is non-dual with its nature is in generally which is called completion stage. So as I explained earlier, completion stage means emptiness, and that a part of the practices when we do, then mostly you find that which is called dissolution, where deity or the refuge tree, whatever you visualize, then at the end everything just dissolves into just emptiness. So that emptiness in a way kind of just more or less like just non-existence. Just everything just dissolves into emptiness, like almost like a space. Just no any substance, no any appearance, no any existence of the phenomena. So that emptiness is the first stage of the practice. It is not the ultimate meaning of emptiness. It is not the perfect meaning of the emptiness. But without going through such kind of understanding and practice of that emptiness, one cannot get into the next level or next stage of the just emptiness. So that emptiness, the part of dissolution which is called like affirming negation. So it is just kind of negating the whole kind of just existence, and that just emptiness in the Vajrayana, that generation stage and completion stage, they are practiced separately. In beginning you go through all this generation stage, appearance to whole complete existence of the celestial palace, and then the deity, principal deity, retinue deities, all everything, and then when you just do the mantra practices, and then at the end everything again dissolves into emptiness. So that is the mostly outer tantric or outer tantra Vajrayana way of just kind of doing the practice, that just the generation stage and completion stage, or that appearance and the emptiness kind of like a just taking into kind of step by step.
圆满次第呢，无论是观想本尊 在前呢，或者是自观为本身呢，都在最后呢，这个本尊呢，或者是归依境呢，都会融入到这个空性当中，犹如这个虚空，所有的现象呢都不再存在。这是第一个步骤的部分的修持法，而并非呢真正的这个圆满的这个空性。但是呢，如果不做好这个第一个步骤的这个修持呢，我们是没有办法进到这个真正的空性当中。所以呢，在多半呢一般的这个外续的这个修持法呢，这个身体以及圆满次第呢是分开来修持的，也就是呢刚开始呢经由观想，然后呢持咒，最后呢融入化空。
Then that the generation stage and completion stage as a non-duality in its nature, according to the inner tantra, then the visualization of the deity as generation stage, and then the just the dissolution as the emptiness, they are not in just form of stages. So from the beginning, instantaneously oneself appears, or just in front deity, like medicine Buddha practice, where you have in front medicine Buddha visualization, and then oneself visualizing as medicine Buddha, and like whether it is oneself generated as deity or in front, both are instantaneously just appear in form of the medicine Buddha. And the moment it instantly appears, then where it explains that the whole appearance of the deity or medicine Buddha, that which doesn't have inherent existence, where it is explained as Nangla Rangshi Motuba, which means there is the appearance, that the medicine Buddha or that deity, but which doesn't have inherent existence or inherent true nature. So which means like rainbow. So when you perceive the rainbow, rainbow is just kind of all the colors and shapes and beauties, all everything you just perceive, but it doesn't have anything substantial, self-characterized, anything that tangible. There is no anything that which you can just kind of hold or touch, or just even you could kind of like break through. It's just a rainbow, and that which explains about the which doesn't have inherent true nature, or which doesn't have inherent true existence, which means just emptiness. So similar like that, the deity, whether it is oneself or in front, also have to visualize, and also have to imagine, or also have to generate in that way, where that the appearance of the deity, just all everything is so clear, including its kind of its eyebrows, and white and black parts of the just eyes, just everything just so clear, but which it doesn't have tiny bit of kind of substantial or concrete or any kind of just self-characterized nature. So that just the generation stage of the deity, and then the completion stage of the deity as the emptiness, being applied from the very beginning as just non-duality in nature.
接下来呢，当我们进入到这个内序当中呢，它的修持方法呢，是身体次第呢以及圆满次第呢无二无别。也就是呢，在修持内序的仪轨当中呢，提到这个刹那间呢，自己呢就显现为本尊。例如在药师佛的修法当中，无论呢是这个前方的药师佛呢，或者是自己呢，在刹那间呢，这个对身的本尊呢，以及自身本尊呢， 两者呢都在刹那中呢显现而没有分别。而这个我们在内聚当中所观修的这个本尊呢，并不是依据这个缘起的这个缘由呢而生，而这个本尊呢并不是具身的，而是呢如这个彩虹般呢，虽然有这个颜色呢以及形象呢，但是呢并没有办法呢实际的去触碰支持。同样的呢，本尊呢，无论是在前方呢，或者是自己呢的这个观想呢，是非常清晰明显的，但是呢，同时它呢又没有这个实质的这个特质存在。在内趣当中呢的这个声闻次第的修持呢，从一开始呢就无二无别，没有任何的分别。
So tell me, based on that practice as one do, then according to the in Vajrayana that there is 4 tantras, Kriya Tantra, Upatantra, Yoga Tantra and Yogacara Tantra. So that these 4 tantras are according to its levels of its view and meditation and the discipline. It's not like just a kind of just separate kind of like a kind of practice. It is just kind of levels, stages, how you go higher and higher. For example, like this Kriya Tantra. So according to the Kriya Tantra, that how one understands in relation with the deity and oneself. Just where one feel like, oh, deity is the enlightened being, and oneself is like ordinary sentient being. That normally most of us kind of feel that way. Oh, I'm such and such. Or I'm a human being, or male or female, and this and that. And then when oneself is introduced into these Vajrayana practices with all these kind of teachings and involvement, then one feel like, oh, this is what is being told to visualize. And that way, where one try to visualize as the deity, but still oneself doesn't have complete sense of understanding. Just why and just how and for what reason just one do that why one have to visualize this Tara or like Butterfly or just Guru Bache or any other deity practice. So that from that level just where it explains of the kind of lower level of mind, sharp level of mind, sharper level of mind, sharpest level of mind. So those who are kind of sharpest level of mind, then they instantly have that sense of understanding that, oh yeah, or once pure nature is deity. So where instantly feel and understand and could to just possibly just have the sense of experiencing in that way. So when oneself is not that sharp level or even middle level, then just one even like have kind of doubt how that oneself can be like a deity, and however even just these deities are ever really existing as a kind of real being or not, or these are just only a kind of metaphor, or just only a kind of like a just example, or just only kind of imagination, and that way just within kind of just individual mind, where there are just kind of certain kind of thoughts that where one could feel that whether it is just instantly kind of just correct in that way or not, and that where kind of makes kind of lower level of mind or middle level of mind and sharp level of mind. It's just the way how one understands, how one approach in relation with such kind of practices. So that way there are all these levels of mind.
在金刚乘的这个序部当中呢，分为4个序部，也就是呢事部、行部、瑜伽部以及无上瑜伽部。这个呢是不同的修持的阶段，并没有所谓的好坏之分。所谓的事部瑜伽呢是观自身呢为本真，了悟到呢去了解到呢自己的这个清净的本性呢就是本真。当进入这个金刚乘的灌顶呢修持呢以及试着去观修呢自己为本尊呢，是由于呢我们自己呢并没有办法呢去完全的了解到为什么要去如此的观想呢自己为本尊。由于呢是因为呢行者呢这样的行者呢是属于较小根器的人，所以呢依着这个事部瑜伽的修持方法呢来修持。而上根器的人呢，能够在修持当中呢，马上呢了解到自己清净的本心呢，就是本真。如果行者呢，并不是上中根器之人呢，对这样的修持法呢，会产生怀疑，认为呢自己怎么可能是本尊？会怀疑呢这种修持方法呢，是不是只是一种善巧或者是幻想？
So, according to that, these 4 tantras, that Kriya Tantra, in a way like a just Kriya Tantra practitioner. So, that Kriya Tantra practitioner is not fixed by anybody else. It is just kind of like fixed by oneself. How? It's just because of one's own level of mind, where one feels kind of like a appropriate with such kind of practice. So that the Kriya Tantra practitioner, what they would just possibly feel is that deity is the enlightened being, enlightened, realized, just achieved complete, Buddhahood. And then oneself as a kind of just practitioner, and that in the Tantra itself, the example is given like a just king, and then like a subject or like a minister. So or a just master, and then a like kind of like a servant. So when the minister or a subject try to work for the king, and then one just try to do everything at the best level that one could please the king, so that when the king becomes just happy with your just kind of activity, and then just king would give you reward, or just say, oh, you did very good job, you have conquered this much, and you got success in all your kind of warfare and so forth, any kind of activity. Now just I'm very happy, so now you can have this plot of land and you can just govern there as a just kind of small kingdom. And that way just being just kind of like a serving the king to please, and then you fulfill your wishes, almost like you could just become similar to that king. So similar like that in the Kriya Tantra, where you try to do all this practice, to please the deity, where you kind of just make all the offerings very clean, shrines very clean, and your clothing very clean, and your disciplines very clean, means nothing mess up, kind of just follow all everything clean and pure, and then just do their practice, and just kind of like a just doing all this prayers and worships and rituals and mantras to just to please the deity. And then one day just when the deity just really pleased with your practice, and then you could just receive the whole complete blessing like the reward. through which you could also get into that deity state, and that sort of kind of view and practice is according to the lower level of mind, according to the Vajrayana, which is called Kriya Tantra's practice.
所以在事部瑜伽当中呢，行者呢会有一种分别心，也就是呢会认为呢本真是正悟的觉者，而自己呢是修法的这个行者。在密续当中呢举了一个例子解释这样子的修持，也就是呢好像有这种王权的分别，或者是呢主人呢以及这个四主人的这个服务人的这个分别。当这个臣子呢为这个国王工作的时候呢，不断的呢去取悦这个国王，而国王呢因为你的努力呢会给你奖赏，而满足你的愿，好像呢自己会感觉如同国王一般。所以呢在事部瑜伽当中呢，这个修持的方法呢可以看得出来呢，在供养呢以及这个戒行或者是他所铺陈的这个修持的仪轨这些当中呢，会发现呢都要用这种非常亲近的东西呢去供养修持以及祈请，而这种方式呢以这种方式呢去持咒去取悦本尊，而能够得到本尊完全的加持，而成就呢如同这个本尊一般。这个事部瑜伽的修行者呢是属于根器比较小的人，有这样子分别心的人去修持。
So then the Upa and the Yoga Tantra, they are kind of there is slight difference. There is no big difference. So anyway, just according to that, then just the deity and oneself, in a way, kind of just the view is also becoming more pure or higher based on the levels of one's mind or the sense of wisdom or intellectual, how much you can understand the kind of absolute reality. So according to that, then one have some sense of just understanding that just deity and just oneself as not a just kind of big difference like king and subject, but more like kind of friends, just your friends or relatives. So when you just try to help your friend and try to be just kind of work for the friend, and when your friend or your relative is just happy what you have done for them, then they also could just share everything whatever they have, and they similar like that. There is more of just getting little bit equality of that level. So where just the deity and oneself also just kind of have this sense of understanding, or that in the deity and oneself just even relatively just deity is enlightened and oneself is not enlightened. But from the absolute point of view, where one also has that sense of kind of enlightened aspect as a deity based on that Vajrayana view. So that way, as one kind of just engage into practice with the generation stage as kind of like oneself as deity, and sometimes in-front deity, and that way as one engage into these practice, not just only the kind of external offerings, but also more internally, where you are kind of the concentration of meditation in relation with the visualization and with that view, and that way where you get a kind of just purify all your obscurations and negativities, and then just one could do just obtain that kind of the realization that which is equal to the kind of deity's level. So that way the sense of view and sense of understanding and sense of that mentality that is just getting kind of higher or closer to the absolute reality.
在根器呢较好的行者呢能够呢进一步的修持坐步瑜伽， 在坐步瑜伽当中呢，行者呢观自己呢，以及本尊在见地上呢，要较事部瑜伽呢清净多。能够了解到呢，本尊呢以及自己呢，并没有太大的分别，就好像这个朋友一般。当我们去帮助朋友呢，当这个朋友去取悦这个朋友的时候呢，他能够分享呢，他所拥有的一切呢，跟你来一起分享。坐步瑜伽的行者呢，在相对上来说呢，他仍然有这个本尊呢，是正悟的，而自己呢是这个平凡的这种分别。但是呢，在绝对的这个见地上呢，坐步瑜伽的行者呢，了解到在这个绝对的见地上呢，本尊以及行者自己本身呢是没有任何不同的。而依这样的见地呢，去观修。清除自己的行者的障碍，能够呢最后呢能够获得如同本尊的这个境地的这样的证悟。
So that way, as one just kind of get into those practices, just somehow kind of like having more and more purified, then one's mind also becomes just more in a way just kind of where one can experience that more of the absolute reality. So then one entered into the what is called inner tantra. So according to the inner tantra, then where it somehow explains about your just kind of primordial nature. So that part just in the Vajrayana and moreover even just the highest tantric teaching like Ati Yoga or Dzogchen or even just the Mahamudra, then where actually it explains the just absolute reality. So that the absolute reality is that just the primordial nature. So according to that primordial nature, then just everything is just pure, as whatsoever it may appear or exist within this relative world, according to the absolute reality or according to the primordial nature, which is actually known as manner of abiding of our own true nature, then it is all like Buddha fields and celestial palaces, and then just enlightened beings. That there is no just any other sorts of ordinary kind of phenomena and ordinary beings. So that what it is the absolute reality and just primordial nature. That according to the highest tantra and just according to that pure nature, according to that absolute truth. So whether one believes or not, or whether one could understand or not, that what it is the just absolute reality is. So there it just like makes the difference whether oneself is a sharp level of mind or not. Just when just when one have like kind of instant sense of kind of just experiencing or just knowing or even just sense of believing, oh yeah, it must be according to its absolute nature, it must be everything should be just pure. And where one even just could help like just believe, means you are still on the sharp level category. And even one could just sense of kind of like the faith or devotion in relation with that kind of just nature. You are in the kind of sharp level of mind category. And then even you could feel like some sense of experience in that nature. Then you are in the sharp sharpest level of mind. And then the sharpest level of mind, then in relation with this kind of substance teaching, or this inner tantric empowerment, or just a certain kind of introducing to the just absolute reality and absolute nature, then there is possibility where you could have recognition. So when you have recognition of that primordial nature, means you are the sharpest level of mind. For example, the king in the body, when Shakyamuni Buddha just transformed into the deity, and then immediately create the deity mandala, and then given the empowerment, and when the empowerment is completed, in that body is just enlightened. Doesn't have to do any kind of generation stage, completion stage, any kind of just practice. Why he don't need to do that practice? It's just because he recognized what it has been just kind of introduced to him according to that primordial or pure nature, and just recognize. So when one has that kind of recognition in that way, then just liberation and enlightenment is just there. Doesn't have to go through any kind of practice. And then one may think, oh, yeah, maybe stop there.
当我们在持续的修行时呢，我们的心呢会变得较为清净，而障碍呢也渐渐的减少。这个时候呢，我们便能够进入到内续的修持当中。而这个内续呢，当中所说的呢，所说到呢，多是呢我们本具的这个心性，在大圆满呢或者是大手印的法教当中呢，所解说的呢，都是针对这个绝对的这个实相本性。提到呢，所有一切的现象呢，无论这个世间的任何的现象呢，它原本呢自始呢都是清净的，而保润于我们这个在我们的心性当中，跟这所有的现象呢，与我们的心性呢都是无二无别的。不论呢你相不相信，或者是了不了解呢，它的实相呢便是就是如此。当我们呢行者呢即使呢不认为呢自己是上根器的人呢，当我们在心中呢有这样子的观念呢以及信心的时候呢，我们呢仍然是属于这个上根器当中的人。而最上根器的人呢，在当上师呢向他指出呢以及给予这个大圆满呢或者是内续的灌顶的时候呢，这个最上根器的人呢有可能在这个刹那之间呢了悟到自己的心性。如同当初的这个因扎菩提国王呢，当释迦牟尼佛呢当向他呢开启这个坛城的给予灌顶的时候呢，这个国王呢在刹那间呢便能够变得获得这个证悟，而不需要经过这个申请呢圆满次第的修行，因为呢他能够了悟到呢释迦牟尼佛呢所向他显示的呢即是他自己的心性。
So then one may think just why there are levels of mind, and why even just in the body, just that possibility of instantly having that kind of recognition, and why we could not just kind of recognize in that way. So that is what it is related with the what is called just obscuration, obscurations. So obscurations are kind of such a phenomena that just that which is somehow created by oneself with the unawareness, not being aware about that reality, and then just one got kind of confused, and then moment you got confused, and then you were lost, and then just that become just kind of obscuration, obscuration, that where you could not have recognition. So so the obscuration again just have so much kind of explanation in one way, like all our afflictive emotions are obscurations, and because of those afflictive emotions, then we could not recognize our primordial nature as wisdom. So, like for example, sometimes you just become so angry, and in a kind of rage, then you get so obscured. Even sometimes you don't know what you are saying, what you are doing, until everything just kind of done and just got messed up. And then after a while you just kind of anger or that settle down, and then when you are in a kind of normal sense, not been too much afflicted by any of those afflictive emotions, and when you are just kind of more in a just normal or natural just state of mind, then you realize, oh, what I have done, I should not have been doing that, I should not have been saying that, those possibilities where one could realize later. So that that what it is known as just obscuration, something which is in front of oneself, one could not just really see, and that way how it obscured the one's kind of primordial nature. So like obscuration, then the afflictive emotions, karmic obscuration, and then habitual tendency obscuration, and then the knowable obscuration. According to Vajrayana, those kind of obscurations are just explained, and because of that we could not recognize our primordial nature.
有些人呢会问呢，为什么呢有这些不同根器的分别？为什么呢因扎菩提国王呢可以在刹那间呢证悟呢，而我们呢却不可以？问题呢就在于这个障碍。这个障碍呢能够障碍我们自己呢去了解察觉到这个实相的存在而产生困惑。障碍呢有许多种。烦恼是其中的一种。由于呢烦恼升起的当中呢，我们不能够了解自己的心性。举例来说，当生气的时候呢，在生气的当下当中呢，我们没有办法察觉到自己的所作所为。在一段时间之后呢，当心呢较为平静的时候呢，才发现呢，自己呢不应该在生气的时候呢做这些事情。这个呢就是障碍我们自己呢不能够见到自己的自信。另外呢，在金刚乘当中呢，也有详细的提到呢，业力、习气以及所知障这些等等的障碍。
So anyway, that the king in the body kind of instantly could recognize is just because that just he. One thing is the sharp level of mind, and then why he is in sharp level of mind is because he has done many of those practices in his many previous lifetimes, that just many of those obscurations were got purified. So that is why very subtle level of obscuration is left, And then with that empowerment, that where one could have recognition, then certain level of obscurations are purified like that, and then there happens the kind of recognition and just enlightenment. So that is the whole complete just purpose in a way. Without purifying our obscurations, we could not just have that kind of recognition or realization or even experience. So for that reason, then just to purify this obscuration, then there are practices. For example, like Mando, the preliminary practice, where you need to accumulate, like 500,000 times of just prostration, bodhicitta, the refuge, mandala, and vajrasattva, and guru yoga practices, that which is the method to purify, once, just those, obscurations and negativity. Otherwise, one need to have a kind of, master to help you to purify, like how, kind of Telupa did to Naropa. Just if you know any of that kind of, life story, kind of Naropa just he's looking for his master, and finally he found that Telupa. And what Telupa did is he didn't give much teaching. What he did is he just took him together, and then let him do all this kind of just activity, where he just go through so many of sufferings and pains, some sort of like kind of like a torture. It's not the teacher is really torturing. For example, like one time Naropa and Telupa, they were just, because Telupa said, I don't know anything, but if you think I'm your teacher and you want to come with me, it's okay. And then so he just Naropa followed. And then one time just Telupa said, oh no, today I'm just so hungry. And then Naropa, of course, just, oh, my teacher is in there, I really want to just get some food. And then just he run here and there. She found that there were just a kind of farmer having lunch in the field. So he just ran and then asked, oh please, can you give some food? And then they just say they gave a bowl, for some noodle and some other kind of food. And then he brought back and just offered to Telupa. And then Telupa ate it, and then he ate, and just it looked so delicious. Then he said, oh, this is so good. I ever had so good, delicious food like this in my whole lifetime. And then he finished it. And then Naropa thought, oh, just today, now I could just really just make my teacher so happy. So then he just he is also so happy. And then Telupa said, can you get a little bit more? And then Naropa, yeah, sure. He just ran again there. And then those families, they finished their kind of lunch, and then everybody's working in the field. And then he just asked, can I get more? And then nobody just, no, you cannot get now, just all done. And then he looked around, and then those pots and everything just underneath a bush, hidden there, they have left there. And then when they said they don't have any more, then he just ran there, because he thought, now anyway, just I want to get something for my teacher. And then he went there and just started just kind of opening and tried to get. And then those farmers become very upset, and then they came running. And then you are just very, very, kind of like bad person. You just don't understand the gratitude, and we already gave you food, and now you want to rob us. Now you are just thieving. It is so bad. And then they beat him so much, just like almost kind of his bones are broken. And so much pain, and then just anyway nothing, and then slowly he just kind of walked back to just tell her, did you get some food? And they said, no, I got so beaten, I have so much pain. Oh, then just Sherab even doesn't say, oh, I'm sorry, or just oh, maybe just I will take you to hospital or therapy or anything, and then it's, oh yeah, that's bad. Okay, now let's go. So like that, he received that kind of like a torture, or a kind of punishment, somehow bearing all those kind of pain and suffering on his body, and that way there were 18 major kind of, he received that kind of like a torture, or a kind of punishment, somehow bearing all those kind of pain and suffering on his body, and that way there were 18 major kind of like a pain, a struggle, and thousands of minor just kind of sufferings that he went through. And then at the end, just you hear that, Sherab just kind of took off his slipper, and then hit on his head 3 times, and then he got fainted, and when he awake, then he had that realization, same like his master. So that which helps how it is being just purified by a master. But I don't think that can work in the West. Big trouble.
因加菩提国王呢，由于他是上上根器的人，因为呢，他在过去生当中呢，不断的修持，清净了大部分的障碍，而在他成为因加菩提国王的这一世当时呢，经由灌顶呢，而能够清净呢，完全清净所有的障碍，而获得证悟。而我们呢，因为有这些障碍呢，所以我们在修持当中呢，没有办法产生这个觉受，去了悟到这个心性，所以呢，有这个四加行的方便呢，去累积我们的福德。譬如说这个10万遍的这个大礼拜呢，以及百字明等等的这个善巧方便的修持方法呢，都是要去清除我们本身的这些障碍。如同呢古时的这个帝诺巴呢，以及拿洛巴祖师呢，当这个拿洛巴跟着帝诺巴学法的时候呢，帝诺巴祖师呢从来不给他法教，反而呢让他吃了许多的苦，以及呢不断的折磨他。而这些所谓的吃苦呢以及折磨呢，并不是像外界所想的，而是呢帝诺巴要去消除这个拿洛巴他本身的这个障碍。而帝诺巴有一次呢，要这个拿洛巴呢去拿这个食物的时候呢，被这个农夫追打，空手而回。而拿洛巴呢，在他跟帝诺巴学法的这个当中呢，经历过18次的大苦，以及100千万次的这个小苦。而最后一次呢，这个帝诺巴呢，生气的拿起这个拖鞋呢，向他的这个头上呢打了3次，而拿洛巴因此而昏厥过去。当拿洛巴呢在醒来的时候呢，他便获得呢跟这个帝诺巴呢完全的证悟。这个呢就是由于呢这个拿洛巴本身的障碍呢完全被这个帝诺巴呢清除而产生的结果。
So then in that way to engage into the generation stage and completion stage, to go through all those visualization of deity practice, then the according to the Vajrayana, that path where it explains that there are just many methods. So one is that just to do that kind of practice, then there are these empowerments. So like within the empowerment there are 4, like bath empowerment, and then cigarette empowerment, wisdom empowerment, and word empowerment. So these 4 empowerments are also again just according to its kind of stage or level. First the bath empowerment. So bath empowerment is more in relation with the outer tantra, and then the cigarette and the wisdom, and then the word empowerment is according to the inner tantra. So the bath empowerment, where you just kind of go through like bath and then like water, and then some kind of like crowns, and then like pictures, and that with that empowerment, somehow kind of like initiating yourself in relation with your kind of just pure nature as deity, and at the same time with that empowerment, which means that introducing to the just deity how deity looks like as a enlightened being, and also part of that empowerment where that just where that it helps to kind of purify your instant kind of like obstructions and obscurations, and also that just like the condition to ripen your mind stream. So to ripen one's mind stream, which means with that empowerment, that where one could just kind of like experience the just inner nature of the deity, or that just pure nature, or some sense of that the in relation with the just the Vajrayana view, or where one could do just even one feel like just completely devotion or faith in relation with that deity, and that which possibility through the empowerment is kind of ripening mind stream, like when there is a seed, and then you just pour just some water, and in that way when you nurture, then the seed kind of arise in form of the sprout. So that what it is kind of ripening, that through the just empowerment, how it just helps to ripen one's own kind of just true nature.
升起次第呢，以及圆满次第的观修呢，从金刚乘的角度来说呢，是属于善巧方便。以这个灌顶来说呢，灌顶呢分为4种，宝瓶灌顶、秘密灌顶、智慧灌顶以及名词灌顶。这灌顶的这个4种的分别呢，也是依据根器的不同而给予。宝瓶灌顶呢是属于外续的部分。而秘密智慧以及名词灌顶呢，是属于内续的灌顶。当我们接受灌顶时呢，有这个宝瓶以及这个灌顶的这个水，以及法罩的这个灌顶呢，是在向我们开启我们自己本身呢，如同本尊清净的这个本性。同时呢，灌顶呢有助于呢清净我们的这个障碍，并且呢成熟我们的这个心绪。在灌顶当中呢，有可能呢去了悟到这个本尊的本性，对这个本尊呢产生强烈的这个虔诚心，而这个呢就如同呢这个种子呢接受这个水的这个灌溉之后呢而能够发芽同样的呢，当我们接受这个灌顶呢，能够成熟我们的这个心绪。
So through that just empowerment, then again just depending upon one's kind of levels of mind, there are also possibility of just having the just recognition of the deity, or just experiencing the deity, or even just having the some sense of kind of devotion, that where one receives that kind of blessing. And that way, where through the empowerment, where it helps to purify the obscuration in a just faster way. But that also depends upon, again, just kind of so many causes and conditions, that where oneself just somehow have some sense of pure view and pure perception, and then just more complete sense of devotion and faith, and then also just following the instruction during the empowerment itself, what one need to visualize, and then try to maintain the visualization and concentrate into it, and having this sense of belief, and then at the same time from the master's kind of side, where it goes through the whole, ceremony of that, empowerment. All those, just are the conditions that when everything just, assembled in its kind of, complete proportion, then that the empowerment itself also becomes just, kind of more effective in the sense, possibility of having recognition, or even one could not recognize the, one's primordial nature as deity, but at least just kind of, experience the blessing, where one just kind of, feel like there is so much, that devotion, or even just, kind of for a moment, where one experience like everything is just pure, or where one experience that there is no more kind of, just conceptual thought, or one's mind becomes just, very clear, or even just some sense of kind of, just blissful, or even one doesn't have those kind of, experiences, still one just, kind of like a full faith and belief that, oh, this is just kind of, just true. And that way, just where, the empowerment kind of ceremony, what it does, with the, in just oneself as, part of that, Vajrayana kind of, just practice, and that which has a kind of, a special method to just, purify the, obscuration in a kind of, faster way. And at the same time, it is like, giving the permission where one can, engage into those, practices.
因此呢，行者呢，心性程度的不同呢，在灌顶时呢，会有不同程度的了悟，而并且接受不同程度的加持。这个灌顶呢，在灌顶当时呢，也有依据呢不同因缘条件的配合呢，而有每个接受灌顶的人呢，都有不同程度的了悟。在法会当中呢，任何灌顶的这个条件呢，都完全具足的时候呢，这个灌顶呢便会非常的有力，能够让行者呢在灌顶的当中呢，能够了悟到自信，或者是对这些产生觉受。行者呢会在刹那间呢体验到周遭的一切呢都是非常亲近的，而灌顶的被接受灌顶的行者呢。会有一种无念的这个念头这个体验，或者是呢行者呢会产生呢感觉到这个心呢是非常清明平静的，或者是对这个灌顶的这个本尊呢产生强烈的这种信心。这个呢就是在灌顶时呢，由于我们的障碍呢能够快速的清除，而接受到这个加持，而对这个心性呢产生了悟。
So, receiving the empowerment itself is, in one sense, kind of like entering into the, deity mandala. So that way, within the Vajrayana, then there is the, which is called mandala, where you see, like, that sand mandala, or just kind of, drawing mandala, or just kind of like a three-dimensional kind of, mandala. So mandala, which means like within that kind of, sand mandala or drawing, somehow there is the whole complete, just the deity field with the celestial palace and rest of all the, principal deity and retinue deities as which deities, whichever that deity is kind of, just assemblage is, and that just that the whole complete characteristic of the celestial palace and the deity, where there is the just explanation, and the just even where one could do recognize again that just deity mandala, that Kinkur, where there is also possibility one can be liberated, and even one could not just recognize at that moment how that deity mandala it is according to the absolute reality, or according to that primordial pure nature. And that absolute reality or primordial pure nature is actually not separate from one's own pure nature, one's own primordial nature. That which is been explained in form of like what the deity mandalas are, and when one kind of just understand in one sense, oh, this is just the true nature, and that way where just even just having that understanding also just purify lots of obscuration, and also just seeing those mandala like stand mandala, just perceiving, and that also just help just purify certain kind of obscuration. Then of course if one recognize, then also there is the liberation. So those kind of like empowerment, and then the just the mandala of the deity, and then kind of maintaining those samayas, and then going through the just generation stage and completion stage, and when one just kind of like engage into that practice with that in a proper way, then where there is the possibility of obtaining that enlightenment or the liberation according to outer tantra, like Kriya tantra, maybe 17 lifetimes. Just it takes only 17 lifetimes, and then Kriya upa, just about just 7, 8 lifetimes, and then according to the Kriya upa yoga tantra, not more than 3-4 lifetimes. And then according to the Yogacharya, which is the inner tantra, then within inner tantra, Mahayoga tantra, Anuyoga tantra, and Adiyoga tantra. So according to the Mahayoga tantra, which is kind of lower, so you can be liberated or just enlightened, in the Pato state. And then according to the just Anuyoga tantra, which is higher, that where you could liberate or enlighten when you are going through the process of dying, you can be liberated. And then according to the Adiyoga, just within this lifetime, within this lifetime, one could be liberated, just be enlightened, like just Guru Padmasambhava, Shri Singha, and like Longchen Ramjam, and like Milarepa, and whole bunch of those who attain enlightenment and liberation in one lifetime. Those are very, very possible even these days, because that the same practice and the teaching and the instruction through which in those days who got liberated and attained enlightenment, that the whole complete just the recipe for enlightenment, it is still so fresh and complete. So no tiny bit of just recipe is kind of messed up. So that is why it is just possible you could get the same taste of that enlightenment even today, that those who have that same taste of enlightenment in those like 7th, 8th century, all those realized beings. So that is why we have great hope.
在灌顶之后呢，进入坛城，无论是这个沙坛城，或者是化坛城，或是呢立体坛城，这个坛城呢，本身呢就是这个本尊的净土。而当我们在进入坛城时呢，如果我们能够了悟到这个坛城它本身本质的这个意义时呢，我们便能够悟到。即使呢我们在这个灌顶当中，我们没有办法去悟到这个坛城真实的这个本意的时候呢，至少呢我们要试着去了解想着这个坛城这个本尊清净的这个自信呢，跟我们自己本身的这个自信呢是无二无别的。这样想呢多少呢能够去清除我们的障碍。 即使呢我们能够看到这些坛城呢，也能够有助于我们去清除我们本身的障碍，而能够进而呢了知这个坛城，而能够得到这个证悟。而在这个不论是灌顶这个法会呢之后呢，我们依据这个仪轨呢来修持呢，去持守呢这个三昧耶戒呢，而这些呢都是能够去清除我们的障碍呢，获得证悟。在金刚乘这个密序当中呢，外序的部分呢，这个式部瑜伽呢、坐部瑜伽呢，提到以及这个瑜伽部呢，都提到我们能够在这个7、8式呢，甚至3到4的这个式当中呢，能够证悟解脱。而在内序当中呢，这个大瑜伽呢部呢提到呢，在我们死后的这个中医生呢，能够证悟解脱。而这个随瑜伽部呢提到，我们在进入这个死亡当中的时候呢，修持这个随瑜伽的行者呢，能够在这个时候呢解脱证悟。而修持无上瑜伽的行者呢，能够在这个一生当中呢，此生呢而获得证悟解脱。过去的祖师呢，有许多的祖师呢，都在这一生当中呢成就证悟。即使呢，在今天呢，仍然有许多的修行者呢，依据这些法教呢，能够获得一生的证悟成就。
So that is just a kind of the complicated introduction of the Vajrayana. And then I think with that hope, I will stop here. And if you have any questions, we have 5 minutes. And no question means you are all sharpest level of mind. Good. So we do dedication.
我有个问题，刚才法王提到的我们坛城有几个坛城，可不可以再讲多一次？有什么沙的坛城，还有什么？坛城，有机油坛城，有沙的，还有什么？
化坛城跟立体的坛城。
画，那是画。
画的画。
画，谢谢。
因为she's asking how many kinds of different mandala?
Mandala, in one way, just with that word mandala, that there can be deity mandala and offering mandala. And then in deity, there are so many deity, according to that there are so many mandala, deity mandala.
Deity mandala.
Yeah.
他们说呢，在坛城这些坛城当中呢，它又有分所谓的这个本真的坛城。
OK。
我想问一下，就是婆罗门教跟我们这个密宗有什么区别？它是不是邪教
？He's asking what's different between Buddhism and Brahman.
Brahman?
Yeah, Brahman.
Brahman, that Brahma or Brahman Hindu?
Yeah, Hindu.
That is a difference in view, because according to the Brahmins, that based on the Hinduism, that they accept the Atma as like the ego or consciousness, something which is permanently existing. And in Buddhism, that it has been explained as emptiness nature. And then that in in the Brahman there is no kind of like a real dedication, but in Buddhism there is the sense of dedication, and then they are just object of refuge as the gods, and the Buddhist deities object of refuge is different.
堪布说呢，这个印度教呢以及佛教呢，它在见地上呢是不同的。因为呢，印度教呢，它承认呢，并且接受呢，这个我们这个自我呢，这个意识呢是永远存在的。但是呢，佛教讲到呢，这些呢，它本质上呢是属于空性的。另外呢，在皈依的这个对象呢，佛教呢以及印度教呢也有不同。
Okay, so we do dedication.